Good morning and officially welcome. This is a gentle yoga class. So we'll need a few things if you have them nearby, or you can go grab them. So we're going to use a strap today, and this is a yoga strap that's made for this purpose, but you don't have to have one of these. You could have a dog leash or like a necktie that you don't use anymore, a belt, a rope, a towel, anything that will just loop over your foot and extend the length of your arm. For our purposes today, that will work. If you have something that has a loop in it, that often makes it easier if you have arthritis in your fingers, right? So one of the things that I will suggest if you're going to be practicing yoga at home, and it would seem that we're at least going to be practicing yoga at home for a while, is if you can get yourself a yoga strap in some way, do. It's a great investment. And then you want to look at the ones that are available to you. This one has a metal buckle. I like metal buckles generally because they put up with a lot of and they don't generally break, and sometimes the plastic ones do. And the plastic ones are a little harder to get looped up. And metal buckles, generally, they work every single time you put the strap through the loop. There are also straps that have, the length of the strap has multiple loops. And for folks with arthritis in their hands where it's hard to hold on for a long period of time, those loopy straps are really great. And one brand is called the Stretch Out strap, but there are others. And so just something to consider for the future. But for today, just get something you can use if you have it. If you have some yoga blocks are great props, but you don't have to have these. Anything that's kind of operates in this fashion. So you could have a stack of books. You could have a couple of throw pillows. Throw pillows are great for some of the purposes. So like sometimes when I use a block, I want to use it to put under my knee like that. And in that case, some little throw pillows like you might have on your couch or on your bed, those work really great in that same way. For other purposes, yoga blocks are to create stability and structure. And in that case, anything that you've got nearby that can give you a little bit of an extra stable. So you could use the furniture close to you, or you can use a wall, things like that that allow you to use, to just create more stability in your practice. So those are some things to have handy. If you've got them, use them. Now we're going to start in a simple cross-legged position. I say simple, it doesn't mean it's easy. So if you can sit cross-legged on the floor with relative ease, awesome. You probably should sit often as well, but that's another story. If not, then sit up on your pillow or get a folded blanket and put that underneath your hips so that you've got a little bit of height. Often elevating the hips is all you need to allow the knees to relax. That being said, if it's better for you to sit with your legs stretched out straight, do it that way. Okay. What we're interested in is just getting ourselves in a position where it feels like we're kind of perched on the sit bones or the little bottom part of our pelvis, and that our spine kind of holds itself up. We don't have to do a lot of tensing of the muscles to hold ourselves upright. And then you can close your eyes for a few moments. You can rest your hands on your thighs, either palms up or palms down. If you like, you can create a little mudra where you put the thumb and index finger together. This often helps kind of your mind concentrate. And so you can do that if that's helpful. Relax around your mouth and around your eyes. And without holding tension in the facial muscles, can you just notice the breath? Let yourself, if possible, breathe way down into the deep part of your belly. Just getting curious about the breath, just noticing the flow of the breath going in and out. Try to let yourself relax around the breath a bit. Now let your chin come down toward your chest, and without slouching forward, can you just feel the back of the neck lengthening? Then we're going to let the head just kind of gently roll a little left and a little right. Just feeling that turn into the side of the neck. Now pick a direction. You might go in the direction that feels the tightest, or you might go in this direction that's a little sweeter, or maybe there's no difference. So just pick one, and you're going to go up and over the shoulder with your head, right? So you're going to, your ear close to that shoulder, kind of roll down towards the collarbone with the chin, and then roll up into the air with the chin, so the head goes towards the back of the shoulder. And just go back and forth over that one shoulder. And you're feeling out all the little possibilities. So for me, the right side of my neck is the one that's getting a bit of a stretch. My head is over to my left. And I'm just rolling back and forth. Now, as I'm going, I'm feeling all the little places on the side of my neck. And then I'm going to stop in a place that feels like the one that needs the most attention. So right there, kind of for me, right on the side of the neck here feels like the most interesting. And then I'm going to drop my arm off that side. So the right arm I'm going to let dangle a bit, which just creates a little bit of a depression in the shoulder and lets that stretch happen a little bit more. Now I'm going to gently rotate around that a notch, just feeling out the little range of motion possibilities. We're going to take 2 more breaths. Make sure you're still breathing nice and deep. All right, so when your inhale finds you the next time, you're going to just bring your arm back into your thigh, right? So bring your chin back down to your chest, and then just float your head up. And so you can give your head a little movement. And then notice the sensation on this side of the neck versus the other side of the neck. Compare the two. There may not be a difference. Give your shoulders a little wiggle. Now, we're going to let the chin fall down to the chest again, and this time we're going to do that opposite shoulder. So without doing too much yet, I'm just going to roll my head the other way, okay? So I'm letting my head roll up and over my right shoulder, and my left side of my neck is getting the stretch. Turning the head back and forth over the edge of that shoulder. And as I go, I'm feeling like, where's the big stretchy part on this side? I may not notice much, but whatever. If there's one spot that feels like it really needs some love, I'm definitely coming back to that spot. Okay, so roll your head over one more time, and then you're just going to come to whatever the spot is that feels like, yeah, that feels most interesting. And then drop that opposite arm over the edge so that there's just a little bit more of a sort of gravity action on the shoulder. If it feels too sharp, back it up. And then you might do just a tiny bit of a range of motion around that spot. Again, we're just feeling out the muscles in the neck. Maybe I sleep on my side. That always makes for interesting neck situations. All right, so when you're ready, you're going to return your hand to your thigh. You're going to return your chin to the chest. And then you're going to float your head up when it seems like the right time. Check out what happened. And then we're going to do some little circles for the shoulders when you're ready. Bring in the shoulders up, around, and back. Oh, these always feel good. When you get to the bottom, go the other way. They also make me yawn. Just going around and around the other direction. Okay, one more time. Okay, so we're gonna pull the shoulders up really tight against the ears, and then we're gonna drop them down. Pull them up really tight, drop them down. Pull them up really tight, drop them down. One more time, pull them up really tight, drop them down. All right, if you're still hanging with me for this cross-legged position, we're done with that. So you can give yourself a moment to rinse out. We're done with the shoulders anyway. We're not totally done sitting, but we're done with the shoulders so we can rinse the legs out a little bit. Now I like my legs a little bigger for what we're about to do, so I kind of leave a little more of a diamond here. So we're gonna lean forward, bring the breastbone up, then we're gonna circle around to one side. So I'm kind of taking my ribs over that way, then I'm gonna circle around the back, then I'm gonna circle around the side, go forward, breastbone lifts up, pelvis tilts forward, okay? So we're rolling the pelvis around through some cat shapes, and it's also kind of a circular movement. See if we can get some rib cage movement going as well. So one more roll in that direction. Now when I get all the way to the front, I'm going to pause for a minute, really fold over my legs. Then I'm going to go the other way. So I'm going to take my ribs over that direction, come around the back, come over this way. Okay, so I'm just going back and forth. Good. Let's do it twice more. Kind of over to the side, to the front, over to the side, around the back. One more time. When you get to the front, we're going to pause right there. You can bring the feet in a little closer if you like. Just letting yourself breathe here. Spine can go up, and then the spine can round softly, and then the spine can go up, and then the spine can round softly. And so lengthening, we can use a little bit more muscle action to do that. When we get into a rounder shape, you're just going to let gravity have you rather than pull, right? I don't want to pull my forehead down and strain the muscles in my back. All right. So we're going to inhale our way up. We're going to take the legs out straight, and then we're going to take them into a bit of a V. I'm not going super wide with this V. If your natural range of motion is to get close to 180 degrees, just take it back a couple notches. My range of motion is not that big, but you just want to feel like you're still perched up onto the tips of your sit bones. So for some of us, it's going to be really narrow. And you may, again, need to put some extra support underneath you or under your knees. I like to put a little bit of a blanket under the knee when I've got my legs out straight. And so what I do is I take a blanket, roll it up, and put that underneath. And that gives me both a little bit of a release in the back of my knee and a little bit of protection for that tissue back in the back, which is a really sensitive area. Okay. So we're going to take ourselves and essentially just turn towards one leg, and we're going to do this in 3 different patterns. So we're going to fold forward first, going straight forward. Then we're going to come back up. Then we're going to twist a tiny bit more. So I'm going to bring my this is my left leg, my right hand towards the outside of that leg and just see how far in it'll go. Then I'm going to come out. Then I'm going to turn the opposite direction and side bend. Okay? So those are the 3 positions, and we're going to do each one for about 3 breaths. So start with the first one, which is just fold over that leg. If you need to bend your opposite knee, bend that opposite leg. And you can turn this foot on, so you rotate that thigh up so the toes point up. You can also let that be a little more relaxed. Last breath here. Okay, good. So I'm going to come all the way up and out. This is where the strap might come in handy as well, because if I can't reach forward very easily, I can loop the strap around me. So I'm going to reach across with my hand, and then I'm going to let myself fold towards that shape, however far it lets me fold, and then let this arm come out to the side. So I'm pulling a little bit of a stretch through my shoulder. Good, so we're going to hold it for 2 more breaths here. So then I'm going to let go with that shape, come all the way up. Get nice and tall, turn the other direction, and I'm gonna side bend out over this leg. Now if my arm going up over my ear isn't comfortable, you can keep that arm on your hip and just do the work with the spine. Okay, I'm using this arm for support. You can also use your hand for support or a prop. Good. Last breath here. We're going to come all the way up. Now, just for a moment, lean back, bend your knees, give yourself a little rinse. Pause for a moment back in that original position, so sitting with the legs in a bit of a V, and then just feel, can you feel a difference in terms of the way your torso is experiencing? Presence being, like what does it feel like to be in your body right now? All right, we're gonna do those same 3 things on this other side. We're gonna take a nice big breath, and then I'm gonna turn and fold over this leg. And again, I might keep this really active, rotate that leg so the toes point up, keep my heart reaching forward. You can also make it softer, but this is one way to do it. So take a big breath. And that's going to float us all the way up. We're going to pause for a moment. Now I'm turning this way a little bit more, so I might even move that sit bone. I'm going across the legs. So again, if I can hold my foot, awesome. If I can't, that's what straps are for. They extend the length of some body part. So we're going to reach across my leg, and then I'm going to pull that elbow out to the side a little bit, let myself turn in towards this leg. So by letting this arm kind of drift out, I'm giving myself a little bit of shoulder stretch, using my leg for resistance. And you may not feel that, and that's okay too. Sometimes you're not as tight as me. All right, last breath here. So we're going to release the leg. We're going to come all the way up, sit up nice and tall. We're going to turn the other direction. Nice big breath, and then exhale, side bend out over that leg. So one more big breath. And then we're going to come back out of there. Nice big inhale. Good. Give yourself a little movement. You can bend your knees, give yourself a little wobble. We're going to do one more thing here, which is to just fold straight down the middle of the legs, and you may not fold very far. Everybody's genetics are different, and for some of us, the pelvis wants to go backwards, not forwards here. So if that's your genetic situation, this is not going to be your favorite version. Don't worry, we're only here for a couple more breaths. Sometimes I really like to keep my spine long. Sometimes I like to let it get a little rounder. Today it's a spine long day. All right, so one more big inhale. And then we'll come up. Ooh, good job, yogis. All right, so we're gonna do some little rinsing out. So you might come to an all fours position and give yourself a child's pose, some cat shapes, and then we're gonna wind up laying on the belly, okay? So we just wanna create a transition. The transition could be just, this. Just move, move, move. Oh. All right, or the transition could be this. Because it feels nice to move. My furry coworkers are making a lot of noise, so hopefully that's not too disruptive to your current situation. Oh. Now we're gonna start laying down really straight forward. You're just gonna lay on your belly, and you're gonna prop your hands up in front of you so your forehead has a place to rest. And then we're gonna lengthen out through the legs. Now, what we're going to try to do is lift just the leg off the floor without rolling the hip off the ground, okay? So you're just going to take one leg, doesn't matter which one you start with, maybe the right leg, lift, and bring it down. Try really hard to keep your pelvis mostly stable. It's not easy. Lift the left leg. Good. Lift your right leg. Nice. Lift your left leg. Lift your right leg. Put that one down. Lift your left leg. Good. Put it down. Lift your right leg. Good, put it down. Lift your left leg, feel those muscles kick on. And then we're gonna pause right there. You can do little windshield wipers. Now, we're gonna do a little work with Cobra. So I'm gonna stretch my legs back out and I'm gonna press them down into the floor. I'm gonna put my hands next to, like chest muscle or so. Fingers spread out, palms nice and flat. And then lift by working your leg muscles and lifting yourself, just your back muscles, however far it gets you off the floor, even if that's a half a centimeter or half a millimeter even. So come on back down. Inhale, lift. Get as much of you off the floor as you can. Hold steady with the arms. Come on back down, okay? Lift. Hold yourself where you lift to. Come on back down. Don't push with the arms, but hold with the arms. So last time we're gonna come up, hold, and then come on back down. Now release your arms. We're gonna take the arms out nice and wide so that essentially you go out about shoulder height, like a T on the floor. Put your fingertips on the ground with your palms in the air so that you have two little, like either cupcake cages or spiders, depending on how you think about it. All right, press your legs into the floor. Lift your chest up if you can. Rotate the right arm forward and the left arm, right shoulder forward, left shoulder back. So you're like making a figure eight. Now go the other way. Left shoulder forward, right shoulder back. Right shoulder forward, left shoulder back. Left shoulder forward, right shoulder back. Good, one more time. Right shoulder forward, left shoulder back. Left shoulder forward, right shoulder back. All right, come on back down. We're gonna come up to an all fours position. And we're gonna bring the right leg forward into a lunge. Now I'm gonna get the pants out from underneath my knee so I don't have any wrinkles of fabric there. The other thing you may need is some extra padding for your knee. And this is where either the furniture or a yoga block might come in handy, okay? So we're in a kneeling position on one side, the other foot is in front, so we're in a lunge position. We're gonna send the hips a little bit backward, so there's the beginning inkling of a hamstring stretch in the front leg, back of the thigh. And then we're gonna take ourselves into the lunge. So there's this beginning inkling of the stretch in the front hip flexor, okay? So a little bit toward the back and a little bit towards the front. We're just gonna move between these two positions one more time. A little bit towards the back, just feeling that out. And then moving into the lunge now, find a lunge that is appropriate for you. So it doesn't feel too sharp. You can have your arms up. You can bring the arms out behind you. Today, my favorite position is one hand on the hip, one hand on the thigh. It just feels structured and supported. It also feels like I can open that chest muscle a little bit. So we're gonna take one more breath. Now, we're gonna take this into the hamstring stretch. So we're gonna ease the hips back and fold over this front leg. You can lift the toes up. You can keep your foot down. For me, it changes how the calf muscles feel more than anything else. Ooh, take one more big breath. Now, we're gonna do something a little bit unusual. So you might have done this with me because it's kind of my pose of the week, but we're gonna send this front knee forward back into the lunge. Then I'm gonna take my back leg and I'm gonna spin it at a diagonal so that my hips will open to the side like a warrior two, okay? So I've got my front knee still bent like that lunge position, except now I've rotated sideways so I look more like I'm in warrior two but kneeling down, okay? Now I'm gonna keep my hand on my thigh for structure and support. You can do whatever you like with this other hand. We're gonna lean into this warrior two so the hips go down towards the center. This gets spicy, be careful. Then you're gonna come out until that leg is straight and we're gonna bend sideways over it. This is the gate pose, the kneeling version of the gate, okay? So we're going back into this kneeling warrior two shape, however deep is appropriate. You and your hips work that out. And then we're coming back out to this straight shape and arching over. Okay, so this is the third one. So I'm gonna hold this warrior two shape. It's kind of like a warrior two. A little bit spicier. Frankly, warrior two is easier, I think. So we're gonna take one more breath here. And then we're going to come back to this gate shape. So we're repeating a shape. You can lift your toes up on this foot if you want. You could add the structure of a block in here. It's kind of nice, actually. So bending into the gate shape, we're coming back to a side bend. Oh. And one more breath here. Now we're going to come out of this shape, come back to all fours. You can go back to child's pose if you like, or, join me in a kind of slithering onto the floor. It's very appropriate for what we're about to do. So start with just noticing, can you feel the difference in your two hips? Oh, I can. And then we're gonna lift into cobra. And again, I'm not pushing with my arms. That's the amount I can lift with my back, but my arms are helping to support me. Come on down. Be careful about hunching your shoulders up. See if you can let your shoulders stay down your back in a more neutral position. Come on back down. One more time into the cobra. Activate those legs. Good. When you come down, we're going to do that spider hand thing again. Lift left shoulder this time forward first. Then the right shoulder. Then the left shoulder. Then the right shoulder. One more time. Left shoulder forward. Right shoulder forward. Oh, come on down. Woo, that felt good. All right, y'all. A little child's pose. Or just an all fours position. Whichever's going to work better for you. Oh. And then we're going to bring the other side forward. So we're going to slide this left leg forward. So we're coming to the lunge. Get my supported friend here. Okay, so again, for this part, we're aiming the hips forward, okay? And so I'm leaning into it, and then coming back, so I'm almost got a straight leg. And I might go forward a little bit more, so I'm just testing out the water here, feeling how my body responds. Coming on back and moving forward into a lunge. Try not to get too distracted by my coworkers who are quite wily this morning. Oh. Breathing deep. So I'm in this lunging shape. I got one hand on my hip, bringing that chest muscle out. I got the other hand here for support. We got one more breath here. And then I'm going to take myself into this hamstring stretch. So I'm going to slide the hip back, fold over my leg. You guys, we're going into this warrior two shape again. So again, I move towards the lunge, then I'm just going to rotate this whole thing, hip and leg, to the diagonal, so that when I'm here, it feels like my hip, my knee line up with each other, okay? And I've got enough room, so I'm going to sink towards this warrior two shape, and then I'm going to come back out and take that beginning of the gate pose. Good. Warrior two, kind of sink in, see how much I should go. The spicy tells you when to stop. Get to two more. This one is a mobile one. Giving myself these two stretches, and then we're going to go in for a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to come into this kneeling warrior two shape. Find the right amount. One more breath here. And then I'm going to back this thing up, and I'm going to turn this into my gate pose. This nice side stretch here. All right, yogis, take one more breath. And then we're going to transform this guy back into our all fours position. And again, oh, that might be where this stops for you. You just kind of give yourself some little movement. Maybe you go back to child's pose. Maybe one more time you come through those cobras with me, kind of taking ourselves from a child's pose into this cobra. Just slithering into a cobra. Reaching through the legs. Coming on up. Reaching through the legs. Turn the glutes towards the outside edge. Good. And then we're going to take the hands out one more time. Lift up. Right shoulder or left one. Pick one, go forward. Then the other. Then the one. Then the other. And one more time. One. Oh. Then the other. Good. Ah, come on down. Windshield wiper your legs. Now we're going to roll onto our side. This is the other pose that I'm really in love with this week or lately. It might last for a while longer. It's hard to say. So you can put a pillow underneath your head and put your arm straight out in front like that. Okay? Or you can keep your arm up underneath your head if that feels like an okay pillow. I have seen people position themselves like this, where their hand is under their head. I don't like the way that makes my neck feel. If you like it, you're welcome to do it. Okay, so then we're gonna get our hips right on top of each other and our shoulders right on top of each other. We're gonna hug in a bit through the sides of the waist. So we're stabilizing, creating a little bit of this deep core strength. Then we're gonna take this top leg and lift it up. And some of us are gonna be able to reach up here and grab this big toe. If you collapse backwards, then you're gonna wanna potentially use, or if you can't reach that toe comfortably, you can hold onto your leg, or you can use the strap for this and put the strap around your foot so that you have a little bit of a handle with the strap to hold on to. Now, try to, instead of collapsing backwards, see if you can bring yourself into a position where you're really feeling yourself. Line your hips up with your hips, your shoulders with your shoulders. We're going to get this kind of inner thigh stretch right here is what we're probably going to experience with this shape. Okay? And then we're going to see if we can't lengthen through that bottom leg and lift it just a little bit and hold steady. So we've got a little extra core work. If that's too much, put your leg back down. If you need more structure, bend your knee and put your leg on the floor like a little tripod almost. Okay? Draw in. You're going to get a little wobbly. That's all right. Wobbly can be fun. Oh. We're just holding steady, hugging through the sides of the waist. Try to hold steady as we hold this stretch for about another 20 seconds. Oh, it's a little wobbly. I like how trying to hold it steady though. It's fun. It's kind of like boat pose, but a little bit less shaky. A little less shaky. Okay, take a big breath. Or at least a breath. Now, we're gonna let go of the strap for just a second and bend that knee slightly. You're gonna roll onto your back. So this may require a little bit of movement in case you're too close to your furniture. And then we're gonna give the back of the thigh another stretch here with the strap. So I have to change the shape. So I have to give myself a little bit more room with my loop. And then stretch that opposite leg out and rest it. You can put something under that leg to give yourself a little extra structure and support. You can bend a little bit at the knee. You can press the leg out straighter. You can pull the toes down or point them. This is going to change the way the pose feels. I also like playing with rotation in the thigh, so a little bit that way or a little bit that way, you know, so that the whole leg moves as a unit. I once did this I did this movement in front of a group of like 10 and 11-year-old girls once, and they told me I was moving my leg like a Barbie. Which cracked me up. But probably, yeah, I mean, Barbies can't bend their knees, so I get kind of where they're going with it. But it still was funny that that was their reference point for human movement. In any case, how often does that shape us? So just kind of feeling out how much movement do I want? Do I want to stay mostly still? We got just 2 more breaths here. Now we're going to take the leg across the body into a twist, and you can keep the strap, press into the strap and hold on. Get your shoulders even on the ground. You can look out towards the opposite side. If you'd rather, you can bring your legs in, undo, like take the strap away and just hold the twist, okay? And sometimes that's my preference. So you can lose the strap, maybe add a little prop under the leg or in between the knees so you have a little more comfortable place to land. Still get those shoulders as level as you can. You might choose not to turn your head, but you might. And then let the body hold steady with this guy. Got a little bit longer, about 45 more seconds here. We're about halfway through. Take a big breath. And then we're going to let go with the strap if you've got the strap. Otherwise, you're just going to bring your top leg back. And then for a moment, we're not going to go anywhere. We're going to lay on our back and do these little windshield wiper moves. Now you can have your feet really close together. That sometimes feels best. Today, my favorite is about like just to the outside edges of my hips, about that wide. Some days my favorite is like as wide as the mat, just super wide. I was actually feeling pretty good today too. So just giving yourself some little windshield wipery moves. And then I keep going until my legs are all the way straight. Just windshield wiper straighten, windshield wiper straighten, windshield wiper straighten. And we're gonna see if there's a difference between the side of the body we just messed with, right? In those 3 very different poses. And then the other side. Does it feel different? And the other quality that we're noticing is the difference pleasant? Or is there anything that feels sore or tender? Because we might just learn from that and not go quite so aggressively next time. I like the way that feels. So yogis, we're going to do the other side. So we're going to start with our Vishnu's couch / sleeping Buddha, depending on who you ask. It's called both of those things. So you're going to lay on your side. Your arm is your pillow unless you want a different pillow. And then we're going to bring this top, so get your hips stable, get your shoulders stable, kind of feel yourself hug in. And then that top leg comes up and maybe you just hold on to that big toe. And maybe you use the strap to hold on to it. Okay. Because that feels like a better idea. And then draw your hip. So my leg on this side has to point a little bit forward because I don't have quite the same range of motion in my hip socket, which makes me stabilize more because there's weight going towards the front and I have to really work hard to hold my hips and core stable, okay? And so I'm pressing my bottom leg into the floor on this side because I need that extra stabilization. I'm using my upper back, using the sides of my waist, everything to hold myself stable here. Because this one's a little more challenging because my leg wants to pull me over forward and I'm trying to maintain the balance. I'm trying to do as much of the balancing work with my core muscles as I can. And the core is not just abs, it also includes inner thighs and pelvic floor and part of your spine. And so all of those things are working together to create the stabilization in the body. We're going to stay for about another 30 seconds. It's about 4 or 5 deep breaths, depending on how deep you breathe and how long it takes. Because I'm stabilizing with my abs, I'm having to use other breathing muscles besides my diaphragm because it's getting a little bit squished because I'm trying to hold steady here. So take a nice big inhale, and then this is where we're going to kind of let ourselves gently roll to the back. Oh. Bend your knee a bit so we can turn this into a hamstring stretch appropriately, because again, we might need to change the spacing, or you might need to adjust the strap so that you can get the right amount. You might need some support under your left leg or whatever leg you've got stretched out on the floor. In my case, it's the left one. And then we're just letting ourselves hang out with this hamstring stretch. Again, I might rotate the leg, bend the knee, pull the toes down more, push the toes away. And I like to do a little bit of dynamic here rather than constant static. A little bit of dynamic movement is very helpful. Going in and out of a shape, for example, we've done that quite a bit. So that's a dynamic approach to yoga poses. And I find it a little bit kinder to joints, and especially places where tendons attach to bones. So tendons are the part of the connective tissue that holds a muscle to a bone. And it's not an area of the body that wants to stretch. It's just tendons are not up for, they really want to hold their shape. And so by doing a little bit of movement, I kind of make the part of the muscle that's in the center do more of the work of the stretching or the lengthening. And it also puts the pressure more in the fascia that wraps around the muscle and less at that tendon point, the connection point. And I think that's a good idea. So we got 2 more big breaths here. And you experiment in your own world and see what's true for you. That's what I'm finding right now in my practice. Now, as you exhale, we're going to take this over into the twist. And again, you can keep the strap. I let go of the strap last time, so I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to add the support underneath my bottom leg, so I have a place like a little shelf for everything to land on. I have to move the pokey corners out of the way. And then get your upper back nice and, level on the floor to the degree possible. And I might want to look in the same direction as my legs or the opposite direction. I'm going to try the opposite direction some this morning. It's not always my most comfortable, but it is interesting. And then let yourself relax into the stretch. We'll stay for a bit. I'm starting to feel everything get a little softer, and that tells me we've got about 3 more breaths. There's an interesting response in the body where when we first start to stretch things, at least I'm finding this true for myself, when I first kind of get into these shapes, my body sort of tightens up a little bit. It's sort of a protection, right? A little protective measure. And then as we hang out, when I get to this like minute and 15, minute and a half point, my whole body goes, oh, okay, cool, we're all right. And it just lets go. And which is why I like to hang out with those shapes for a bit. So we're going to come back to the center with that top knee. Let go with the strap if you're still using the strap. And give yourself a little rinse. And just test it out in your own experience. See if that's true for you. Maybe for you it happens earlier than it does for me. Maybe it doesn't happen at all. Maybe your body doesn't tense up. Like, mine might not trust me very much. It has reasons not to. I haven't always been kind to it. So feel. So for me, I'm noticing that both sides are a little more even. So I don't have that sense that one leg is very different than the other. And I also am feeling kind of a nice, sweet, sort of pleasant sensation of relaxation and release. And that's nice. Now, yogis, if you would like to do a supported bridge pose, have either a block or a pillow handy to put underneath your pelvis. We're not going to do that right away. We're going to do some Dvipadapitham first. But if you would like to do a supported bridge, have those things nearby. Now, one thing that might be necessary with any supported bridge pose is it might be necessary to support your shoulders so that your neck has a little bit of like a kinder, softer thing. With this position here that I am in, when my hips go up, a lot of the weight shifts into the back of my skull, which does put some pressure on my neck. So if my neck is in some way compromised, if I take a blanket and I put it under my shoulders such that it stops about at the top level of my shoulder, so my neck actually is slightly elevated off the floor, right? That's going to put less pressure in my neck and my head because the pressure is going to go into the shoulders and that slight elevation. I have done shoulder stands with 4 blankets underneath my shoulders so that I actually wind up with my head almost like just barely touching the floor. And it's a more pleasant sensation for the neck because the shoulders really bear all the weight. So if this sounds like a thing for you, take a blanket, put it underneath your shoulders, and I'm going to do it so that the rolled edge of the blanket is at my shoulder level. That way any unevenness is going to be under my back and not under my shoulder. Hello. Okay, so now with that blanket there, I'm going to move up just a little bit. Now my neck is not as, like the back of my head, not as heavy on the floor, okay? So more of the weight is going to be borne on my shoulders as I do this. Okay, so with that in place, my feet are going to be in the position, and this mat is a little slick, so I'm going to put myself underneath it. But I'm going to put my feet in position so it feels like they're about hips distance apart. I'm going to scoop my tailbone up and lift my back. Okay, now that's it. This is the Dvipadapitham. So I'm using my elbows to help hold the structure, and then I'm going to come down one vertebrae at a time. So I really slow this down. I want to feel each of the vertebrae in my back touch the ground. Now my flesh and my clothing touches the floor before my back does, right? But I'm feeling for the weight of the bone to touch the floor. So I'm about right here right now, where my ribs are, right? And so now I'm starting my lumbar spine, and I feel that top bone touch, and then I'm going to try to get the second one, the third one. Oh, I'm getting close to the bottom now. So my sacrum and my S5 or my L5 go together usually, and then I'm going to let my sacrum just roll back into the floor nice and heavy to the tailbone. Okay, so that's the idea, is we're going to go up and we're going to come down just like, increment by increment, trying to feel each vertebrae in your spine, if you can, hit the ground one at a time. And this suspension of this helps strengthen the muscles that support the spine itself, which is why it's a good a good movement. Okay, and this blanket has taken all the pressure out of my neck. Okay, it's being borne on my shoulders, which is why the blankets are so sweet. All right, so I'm going to scoop that tailbone under a little bit, and I'm coming down one vertebrae at a time. Now sometimes I get a little hamstring cramp, so I might come down for a second and then go back where I was. That does happen. Probably need to hydrate better, but in any case, coming down one vertebrae at a time. I'm about at the point where my T11, T12, just about, okay, now I can feel the lumbar vertebrae, one. These are hard to get down one at a time. Sometimes they like to come down as like 2 or 3 together. There's the top of my sacrum, and then I'm going to let my sacrum roll to the floor, okay? Which reestablishes that little curve in my low back. We're going to do it twice more. So you might take a little moment in between, especially if you're like me and your little hamstrings cramp up. And then we're gonna do it again. Scoop and lift. Okay, feel that, you know, where whatever the top vertebrae is. For me, it's like, you know, those upper back vertebrae. I'm not on my neck. And then I'm gonna try to see how much I can peel these little thoracic vertebrae down one at a time. Try to feel each rib on either side land with those vertebrae. Oh, I'm just about at that T8 or 9. Almost there. There's the T. Oh, right about there. There's my last little set of ribs. I think I've got one more, and now my lumbar spine is starting to touch. 2, 3. There's 4 and 5, and the top of the sacrum, and then the rest of the sacrum. Oh. And it's fun to feel where those bones live, and I'm kind of guessing which one they are, based on sort of the rib that I feel touching the ground, or the, you know, where it's like, oh, there isn't a rib there anymore, so which vertebrae is that? And trying to feel each of those bones. So we're going to do it one more time. So lifting up. Oh. Okay, so we're going to peel this down one vertebrae at a time, really trying to feel each one touch the ground. Just feel the weight of the little movement right there. Like, can you feel the structure of your spine as you put each little vertebrae down? Oh, it's so interesting. There's my bottom rib now. So I'm going into my lumbar, and I'm going to really try to slow that down because that is hard to get individual movement in for me. They want to act like one little unit. There's the top of my sacrum almost. There it is. And then roll it down. All right, yogis. So this is the point where you could decide that you want to do a supported bridge pose. You could also do a supported shoulder stand. You can do just legs up pose. Just do that. Or if you have a couch or a cushion or something nearby, and you could put your legs up over a chair or up over the edge of the couch, you can do that inversion. So inversions are tricky. Legs up the wall, if you have a wall handy, put your legs up a wall. So you just want to be, again, we're mindful of the neck and the positioning of things. So I'm going to put this block underneath my pelvis. Now blocks are really firm, and some of us, especially if you have some sacral tenderness or sensitivity, you might want to use a pillow instead, because it'll be squishier, but a little bit softer on the bones, okay? So the hips go up, you slide that guy under, and then position it so that it's under your pelvis and not under your low back, right? So my low back is here, where my hand is, and then my pelvis is right here, and that's where the block lives. I want the block under these big bones, right? And so for me, just sliding the legs a little bit further out, but not completely straight. That feels pretty good. All the way straight starts to get a little spicier. So I might do that one leg at a time, or both. I've got a little pokiness with the block under my bum. Okay, so I'm kind of digging just having a little bit of the knees bent. And again, because I put this blanket under here, I've got really no pressure in my neck at all, which is really lovely. Shoulders are bearing the weight, which is, according to Greek mythology, where that works. Right? I'm pretty sure it's Greek. Atlas. And this might be your inversion, and you might take your legs straight up in the air from here. That's your supported shoulder stand. So do it one leg at a time, and put the weight right on the block or the pillow. And then you can kind of play. I like this pose a lot. I'm feeling kind of more inclined towards the bridge today, so I'm going to take it back down. But that gives you some ideas. Oh. And trust your instincts. Like if you are in a pose and you're like, trust that. Just trust it. It's there for a reason. And one of the things that we, I mean, it's tricky. Sometimes our mind will tell us things that are to protect our ego as opposed to what's good for us. But part of the task of yoga is to start to discern those voices, right? And so going with your instincts and seeing what happens is a way to start to build your sensitivity and to notice, like, oh, maybe it was okay the other way, right? Just notice, like, where's that voice coming from? Sometimes the body just needs to rest. And it's okay to go with that as well. All right, yogis, we're going to stay here for about another 4 or 5 breaths. Now, if your hips are up, if your legs are up, you're going to bring your legs down nice and easy one at a time. And if you want to stay, like if you're doing something like legs over the couch or legs up the wall, some other variation, not what I'm up to, and you want to stay, that's fine too. I'm going to get this block out from underneath me, so I'm going to get my feet under there, take my hips up, slip the block out, and then right where that block was, I'm going to give myself a little massage and movement, and eventually I'm going to bring my knees into my chest, but I'm going to scooch down this blanket a little bit first. Okay. And then I'm going to bring my knees in. And give that sacrum just a little bit of a rock. It feels really nice. Now, I'm going to do just a little kind of movement towards a twist, back and forth. That feels nice to me. And then we're going to stretch ourselves out for a final relaxation. Now, I could leave this blanket underneath my head, but I am going to use it under my legs. And then I'm going to show you what I'm going to do for my head. So I'm going to roll this blanket up just into like thirds or so and slip this up underneath my hips. So I'm pulling it right up against my hip, but I'm not lifting my pelvis up off the floor, okay? I'm starting there, just right up against the edge, straighten the legs up, and see what happens. So I need it a little bit farther away, so then I just move it a notch. It's easier to start higher up and push it back than it is to reach down there, grab it, and pull it up. So I start up a little high. And you can always adjust your whole body, right? Now for my neck, if you have a second blanket, use that. And I do, but I'm not I'm going to use the edge of my mat because I want to show you this. So I'm going to take my mat and I'm just going to roll it up a little bit, a couple times. And then I'm going to put that rolled up section underneath my head. So I may have to play with it a little bit to get it just right. But what I'm looking for is the tiniest little whisper of support right on the back of my skull. So if you reach back here on the back of your skull and feel like where your neck meets your skull, that little ridge, and then go down towards your ears. This ridge right here, the occipital ridge, if you put a little bit of support under that, it helps your nervous system get the message to relax. There is a part of the vagus nerve, or vagus nerve, depending on who you ask how to pronounce it. It's the same root word as vagabond. And so, as not to confuse it with the place where you overspend money on things that are not important, like gambling, I call it the vagus nerve. This is a personal choice of pronunciation. But in any case, and I've asked doctors and they say it's all the same, it doesn't matter. But in any case, this little area under the back of the skull, part of that nerve, there's two, right? It's a pair of nerves. One goes down the dorsal, the back part of the body. One comes towards the front part of the body. And this is a really active nerve in trauma. It's a really active nerve in terms of our ability to relax completely. And it seems to me that when I provide gentle support to that part of my skull, and it doesn't need to be a big support, just a little bit, that it helps that whole thing relax, right? The whole body relaxes better. See if that's true for you. Just check it out. And then, relax. Now, I've always liked this little bit of support under my head, ever since I can remember, laying down on my back. Now I have science to back me up as to why. So just let yourself try it out and see if it works for you. And then try to let your whole body just ease into the floor, right? Let the palms of the hands relax and the soles of feet. And feel how that little bit of relaxation, and you might have to reposition things a little bit. See if you can let your whole arm bone, lower arm, upper arm, you might have to bend a little bit at the elbow to make that just right. Let the bones relax. Let your legs relax. See if you can let the hip get a little bit, like that femur bone, a little deeper in that hip socket. Let the bowl of your pelvis and the beautiful arching of your spine and the bowl of your rib cage and the bowl of your skull, let those be places where all of the internal organs relax. Feel your eyes relax, and even let your brain relax a little bit. Let your heart and lungs ease in. Let all the intestines and the belly relax. Now the magic, yogis, is that you're at home, so you get to do what you want. And if you want to stay in Shavasana for a while longer, you could turn this into just however long you want to stay. For the purposes of this thing we're doing together, we're going to take a moment here and just notice the breath again. Then you're going to take a nice deep breath all the way to your toes. And then you can start to wiggle your fingers and toes. Oh, stretch them out. Ooh, give them a little wiggle. Stretch them out. Give your wrist and ankles a little movement. Give your body a nice long stretch in all directions. And then when it feels like a good idea, you could bring your knees into your chest a little bit. Give yourself a little hug, a little back massage for the road. And then you could roll over to one side, which is my preference, or you could rock yourself up if that's your preference. I like having this little in-between zone for a breath or two. There have been times I've stayed longer. I have done yoga classes where I've sat up and I was the last person to sit up and everybody was watching me waiting. It's a little embarrassing. And at the same time, I'm like, what are we in a hurry for? So thank you so much for joining me for morning gentle yoga. Hopefully your body feels a little bit better having done so. At least, or maybe just your mind. Namaste, beautiful yogis.